discuss issues surrounding GMO in Nigeria, we have an expert, that's Professor Rabiu Adamo, who is one of the principal um, investigators when it comes to genetic modified organisms in Nigeria. So he spoke to us and he enlightened us on what GMO is actually about. So when we come back, we'll be talking with our guest here in the studio. Please stay with us.
Genetic modification is part of science of crop improvement and crop and animal improvement that uses molecular techniques to improve crop and livestock. It looks at the detailed genetic background, the sequencing of the discovery of DNA and the sequencing of genes and the identification of genes that can be transferred from one organism to another to enhance a trait of interest to the farmer so that it can ameliorate or improve crop or animal improvement so that the trait of interest will be manifested in the desired organism or background. That is the science behind it. So genetic modification gives rise to genetically modified organisms. These GMO techniques have been in use for more than thousands of years. Fermentation is part of the biotechnology that has been behind the genetic modification. However, in recent times, the use of GM has received considerable interest worldwide in industry, agriculture, and in medical and pharmaceutical sciences. This genetic modification has played a role in the production of different products that have genetically enhanced for use by man and his livestock. In health, it has played a tremendous role in the synthesis and manufacture of drugs that are hitherto not being able to be done through conventional means. So GM is an advancement of science and technology application to solve problems that were hitherto before could not be have been thought of. That is what genetic modification is all about. The modern biotechnology came into being in the last 60 years from the 50s. All has been embraced in the industry and in agriculture. I'll give you an example. The first genetically modified crops were grown using a bacterium from the soil called Agrobacterium tumefaciensis that causes tumor on crops, especially seleniferous crop. So that bacteria has been engineered to produce tumor on crops. That is a pest on tobacco. So with this breakthrough, scientists have been working in the advanced countries to produce comparable crops using the same technique, using soil-dwelling bacterium. Example, for crop improvement, the bacterium that have been used and have been common in all countries is the Bacillus thuringiensis, that is free-dwelling soil bacterium that can be harvested and incorporated into plants. Like the genetically modified crops that we're talking about in Africa is based on the transfer of some genetic materials from the bacterium into the maize plant to enhance its protection against some lepidopterous insect pests like stem borers and fall armyworm. These genes from the bacterium produce some proteins that deter lepidopterous pests like the stem borers and fall armyworm from feeding on maize plants. These lepidopterous stem borers and fall armyworm cause considerable yield losses to maize crop. So by incorporating these genes from the Bacillus thuringiensis, which was synthesized, scientists have been able to find out that these genes deter feeding by this leptosperin pest on the maize plants. So they incorporate it into the genome of the maize, and the maize accepts it as part of its own. So it produces the proteins from the bacterium that gave it the protection against the said pest. This technology of genetic modification, especially on maize, has been used to protect maize for more than 26 years. The first genetically modified maize crop that have been sold was in 1996 in US, Brazil, and Argentina. This has been cultivated worldwide against stem borers and European corn borers. They have the same or similar proteins that is used to protect against fall armyworm and stem borers. So this is an advancement of technology that was deployed to improve protection of crops, not using those soil-dwelling bacteria to enhance their protection against those pests and to guarantee improved yield. So it protects the crop from this insect pest. We have the right to express concern, but scientific research and documentations, all studies conducted in the US by EFA, the Environmental Protection Authority, in Europe by EFSA, European Food Safety Authority, and others in Nigeria, the MBME, and others have shown that genetically modified crops are safe for human consumption. The whole World Health Organization and Federal Ministry of Agri have conducted their research, and they found genetically modified meats to be safe for human consumption. All these insinuations have no documented evidence to show that genetically modified food is unsafe. No work or documentation has been produced. All those people are talking based on sentiments. Science is based on facts, and if there is no empirical evidence to suggest that this may cause this, we should not go ahead to insinuate and propagate those kind of fears. The United States of America, where the technology has been about for, where it has emanated for more than 5 decades, have been consuming this genetically modified maize. It will interest you to know that in the United States of America, more than 130 million hectares is being put to production of genetically modified maize of different events. They have been consumed in the United States. Most of the products, cereal products, are from genetically modified maize. With their stringent environmental concern and health concern, US have regulated and allowed consumption of genetically modified crops, including maize. The same thing with Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil, South Africa. So if causes cancer, United States will not allow millions of hectares to be devoted to cultivation of genetically modified maize and soybean. More than 1/3 of all soybean produced in US is based on the GM technology. So more than 1/3 of all cultivated soybeans are genetically modified to improve their nutritional and agronomic suitability for cultivation. So all this is insinuation. This technology is not new. If it is harmful or it has a dangerous effect, it will not be have been allowed in the United States and other North American countries. So banning it without any justification. For Nigeria, it has been certified by all the competent regulatory and health authorities that this genetically modified maize is safe. If you have been to the United States, which I have been, and others, I have consumed genetically modified maize, coffee, soybean, and even all the oils, canola oils are based on genetic modification, the ones being produced. So it doesn't cause any health concern or any health effects. But people have the choice to consume it or not. But all evidence have indicated that it does not cause any of the disease you mentioned. So genetically modified maize has been consumed worldwide. It has been in the food chain for more than 30 years, from 1996 to date, and it has been used in all different industries, from poultry or livestock industry generally, and in the food industries. So I want to discounter this misinformation. If it is unsafe, the federal government of Nigeria, through its regulatory authorities, the National Biosafety Management Agency, the Federal Ministry of Health, and the NAFDAC would have not have allowed it to be in the country. It has gone all through all the regulatory processes to ensure that all the due process of safety and environmental concern were followed before it was allowed to be research to be conducted on it and to be released for Nigeria.
Now let us begin with this hot topic we have at hand. So let me even start with the farmer, because it seems like a lot of things we are hearing about GMO. We have people who are saying farmers should reject it, they should not plant the seeds in their farm. So what are your own thoughts on genetic modified organisms?
Okay. Thank you, madam. And my view on the GMO, I think this is not the first time we have been talking about it, and I've been here before, and now I still go to other platforms to talk about GMO. My take on the GMO, to me, well, I totally 100% I condemn it, and I never support having GMO to come and stay in Nigeria because of the health implications that are attached to it. But with what has been going on, researchers has been working, and other people have also been working just to know the impact the GMO is going to make on our food production. And to me, as a farmer, somebody that produce agricultural products, both livestock and crop, I would not subscribe to that. Rather than we said we should, hide the idea of the GMO. I'm trying to see how the GMO can help our country, and how the GMO can help our food supplies system, and how the GMO can help the demand of the Nigerian. Instead of doing that, I know is there every day the population keep rising, and we have the demand of the both home and abroad, because as we have Nigerian here, we also have in diaspora that also demand for our product. I would rather said, instead of you know being the ace to just accept and start using the product of the GMO, we rather focus on how we can enhance and put more effort. It's not that we are not blessed in this country. We have the fertile land that we can make use of, you know, to produce and to meet the demand of Nigeria, both home and abroad. But we have not done enough. So rather than accepting GMO, I would rather say we should go, in that line of, let's enhance what we have been doing. Let's double the production, and so that we can meet up with our population. Because it is not because of we are talking about GMO just because it's has been modified, just to it's something that will quickly grow and be harvested, and we have double. If we can just enhance the current method that we have been using, I believe we'll be able to meet up with the demand and hearing of Nigeria than go in that line.
Okay, alright. So what about you? What are your thoughts on the all genetic modified organisms?
Okay, my thoughts are a bit, yeah, GMOs. I think, so in my view, I believe there's a lot of misunderstanding about what GMOs actually are. And I think we'll be doing ourselves a disservice by just by not really understanding, what the real situation it really is and what poses the actual danger, in the GMOs, and that should help us make informed decisions, on whether to choose to consume or not to choose not to consume, or choose to engage or choose not to engage. So genetic modified organisms, they're basically, it's like a term. I would say it's a term that has been coined to define like the modern techniques that have been used to modify crops. However, we have to be objective to say that almost every kind of crop, that we consume has already been, it has a flow of genetic modification. It could actually be either naturally done or artificially done. Now, if you're doing it artificially, it means that you could have done it through selective, there's what we call selective breeding, or through, what's it called, laboratories and other kind of experiments. Now, the challenge that we have, really, it's more on the methods upon which these crops have been modified, which is when you're doing it through the laboratories. Now, doing it through the laboratories would mean that you're altering, you're going very deep into the molecular systems, and then you're actually altering it via some sort of techniques, so those techniques could either be considered as ethical or unethical. So, it could be like, because sometimes you could be creating some strains that kind of like creates some sort of monopoly, in that agricultural system. So based on all of this understanding of how it actually came to be, would really now begin to define like that. Okay, so I choose to engage with this. I choose not to engage, with this. And I believe that what causes the actual dangers, are not. I mean, I would be very, or sometimes, I would be very objective that sometimes the challenges we hear are actually sometimes over exaggerated, in the sense of like, it's not. It's not like, okay, it will just, you put it into the soil, it just begin to poison the soil. You put it into this, it just begin to create some sort of. But it's the flow. It's a structural system that degrades the environment, and then degrades the soil and all of those kind of things. So, accepting it or not accepting it, I'll put it this way: that in as much as what's going on right now, it's like the country is bullying everybody into accepting it, in the sense of like, we don't have a choice to choose or not to choose, because we don't have a segregational system in the country. I would also say this, and this is coming from our own form of advocacy as well, is that we cannot as well say we choose not to consume, because this is how we believe it should be. However, we should have a system where if you choose not to consume, you can't be protected. And if you choose to consume, you can also be protected. And that's where the labeling actually comes in place. That if you choose to engage, stay at your limit. And if you choose not to engage, stay at your limit. Let there be some sort of segregation. So that way we don't end up creating some sort of imbalances and all of that in actual. However, in the process of regulation as well, because we have to understand that, like I said, there's some ethical issues. So if the country as a nation, decides that we want to have some sort of sovereignty in terms of our seed production, in terms of so many other things like that, then that is where we have to understand that some things should not be tolerated, should not be accepted, should not be on the national level, right? But I believe that the most fundamental thing is to actually understand the actual implications, the actual objectives of what it should do, or what it cannot do. And that from then on, we should be able to make informed decisions, on how some of these things work. I'm sure you'd have other questions, but
Okay,
as we keep going,
yes,
we should
because
have.
when it comes to the issue of monopoly, we have scientists in Nigeria here who are also into genetic modification. They've been doing several experiments, like the man that we played the interview before we came into the studio. And one of the things he said was, if you plant the seed, you could still plant it like once or twice before there would be need for another modification of the seeds to give the result that it first gave in the first plant starting phase of it. So do you think we might still be running into the issue of monopoly if we are having Nigerian scientists actually working on the modification? Since, well, you have said that it seems like the dangers of it are exaggerated by the media.
So, I mean, again, it's a function of, and I'm happy my friend here has already explained a few things. Like there's a whole lot of work that we ought to do as a country. Now, if Nigerian scientists are developing strains, and saying that, okay, so this is how we're going to modify it, and this is how we're going to modify it, and all of those things, it's like saying that when you have some sort of I'll give an example. I mentioned something about selective breeding. Selective breeding means that you have a desired trait that you want to achieve, that you want to do, but and those traits sometimes is like saying I have a big let me use beans for example, cowpea. So I have this kind of cowpea that produces 1 kg after harvest. And I have this other cowpea that produces 4 kg after harvest. Now, but this one that produces 1 kg, has some sort of deformities, has some sort of resistance, like it hardly falls down from sort of sickness. And this one easily gets, sick from any kind of disease. So I now want to combine both in such a manner that I'm able to take from the resistance of this particular strain and then mix it up with this particular variety that actually creates a lot of abundance in the flow of all of these things. Now, the process of doing all of this is what we call selective breeding, when we do it naturally and all of that. However, the challenge is this: if I now decide to bring in those particular strains, because like I said, there's something that's actually responsible for making it resistant to that, to diseases, then it's something that is actually making these particular products, create some sort of abundance. Now, the method of extracting those exact DNAs, to create my own kind of product is where the dangers might come from. Right? Because now, like I said, I could be using some sort of highly sophisticated, chemicals or highly sophisticated structures. There are some models of maybe using some sort of atomic reactions. So those methods of how those products have been extracted, is where we have to understand to be informed if we would like to be associated with it or not. You understand? That's where the danger really is from, And like I said, because we don't, and there's something we call there's something that we refer to so we call it traceability. Traceability in the sense of like that you want, if I'll break it down aside from the GM and all of these things now, like when you are, I'll give an example. As a Muslim, we don't eat pork. So you want to buy food that is in the eatery, that is already in the eatery. So you want to be sure that you're not eating pork indirectly. What that means is like that you have to know how the sausage came to be. You have to know where the source came from. You have to know how it was created, the process of how it was created. That would help you be sure that you're not going against your moral values, right? And that's exactly how it is sometimes with GMOs. That because you are not being clear, you're not being clear about how you created this product. It puts us in a dark space, to say if it was done in a way that confines with my health issues, with my environment, with my economic values, my national so it's the methods, you understand, that it's not being clear, or that it's not being that's not being processed, so to speak. And again, like I said, because we don't have a structural segregational system to say this is what this is what that is. So that gives everybody a mandatory use of it, and that's where the danger is coming from. So now that it's like, as a country, it's either we all accept it or it's either we all don't accept it. That's also not the best.
Well, I think the good thing is we are being given a choice now, according to NAFDAC, that it's marketers have to label the ones that are genetically modified and the ones that are not genetically modified. So now, the farmer who says that he is completely against the use of GMO, as we know that there is always, as humans development comes along with everything we are doing. We've moved away from the stone age. We are in the technology age now. So do we just accept GMO as one of the consequences of technology? Because in farms, they used to use hoes and cutlass. Now we use tractors and things like that. And the use of tractors and harvesters and all other implements that they use on farmland is to boost production, make work easier, make it faster, make it less stressful. So if we are having this GMO that is being advertised as messiah to ending food insecurity in Nigeria, is it not something that farmers too should probably think about? Because I still remember there was a time that a lot of farmers were against the use of fertilizers, and now we have government giving fertilizers to farmers as palliative. So do you think that that might also be something that farmers too could consider and just accept it as a new technology that they need to understand, and then probably they could even use it for their own advantage?
Well, for farmer that does not think about the nation, and also that does not think about what tomorrow will be, and a farmer that thinks about just the money to make the money now, I think such farmer can accept that. And I don't think a farmer should see GMO as a technology that come to help to enhance the food production. The farmer should not see GMO as a technology that is coming to fasten the harvesting, or that will even double the harvesting of the product of your farm. Rather than accepting GMO, just like you said, that in the past that we have our mothers and fathers, in the village, we know how they move. I know when I do visit village, I see my grandma, how she moved to the rice farm, the cola farm, and other farm that she has. But we saw how everything tell on the body when the old age come. But now, with the improved machinery that are available, just like you said, we have the tractor, we have a power tiller that tints the land for you if you want to, plant. If you want to upload heavy, a strong tree in a place that you want to plant, you will have an excavator that you can use to remove all those things. And even if you want to harvest, we have the palm oil now. In the past, there is a stick they will just put in harvesting the palm kernel, fruit. Now there is a machine that you just put. The machine will go and harvest all the palm kernel and bring it down. Take it to the pot that it's going to be cooked and turned to oil. So if we want to talk about technology, to enhance our food production to meet with the population of Nigerians, I think we rather going on a mechanizing agriculture than, because we have the land. The reason why you don't have many youth in the line of agriculture in time of crop aspect is the stress of clearing the bush, how to tint, how to lay the ridges, the bed to plant the vegetable they want to plant, because it's stressful.
And time consuming.
Yes, and time consuming. So for to have the fast planting, to have the fast laying of the how you want to plant and fast harvesting, we have the rice harvester, we have the rice planter now that will help you to plant your rice seedlings. So rather than accepting or see GMO as an alternative to enhance our food production, or to see it as a technology opportunity, rather go mechanize. How can our scientists, the people in agricultural engineering, how can they build many machines if we want to ignore aspect of importing machine from other developed country? Rather go in that line than accepting GMO. And in what the professor said and what you said, that we have our scientists researching and working on the GMO, which is a very good thing for them, because if they are not researching on it, how are we going to know that they are a scientist? So it's proper for them, and it is their responsibility as a scientist, Nigerian scientists, to go ahead and go and research on what is impact on the GMO, health-wise and other aspects. Now, if the professor that you interviewed talking about the research they have done in ABU, and they are using GMO, they plant the seed of the GMO in a particular soil, and after harvesting it, they were able to plant another crop, seed in it, and worked. But as the professor or the scientist, have they tried to research the human consumption, the the react? How does the GMO product react in the system of the people that consume it? And see, if we are talking about food, and it's not only just the researcher or the farmer, we have to carry people in the medical line also along, to also monitor. Maybe we just take, for example, we use a animal to use as an example, to to experiment what is the result or the end of this product of this GMO. Okay, let's assume that we want to study for 6 months, and a product, we are going to plant a maize of GMO, and after harvesting it, let's look for a goat that feed with the maize, and let the scientists first study the health of the goat. So after taking the product of the GMO for 6 months, what is going to be the reaction in the system of the goat after? So before we now say, okay, oh, we've studied this, because when we rear goats, after rearing the goats, it's going to end up in human consumption.
Yes.
So automatically, if we see how the goat has been react to product of the GMO health-wise, and we'll know, oh, I think this thing is not going to have much implication, unlike what we have been consuming before. It is true that we have been, trying to modify many other products, and we have different improved seed in the country that we have been using. I know in the past, it's because of the population keep rising. When our mother then want to plant maize, we are in the rainy season, and this is the season of the maize. So when they harvest all the one they are going to use, they think of the tomorrow, what they are going to plant tomorrow. So they have someone that they will some harvest they will keep aside in planting for the future, for the tomorrow. So they have been doing, but that cannot meet up with the population now any longer. So we have to see how we can. But what I know with the other improve, I think the maize that we plant at Agege recently was, fantastically doing well. It's not GMO, but we are enjoying it and the harvest. So if we can work with that, I believe that we will be able. What's the essence of coming with the idea of the GMO? Is because of the demand of the food production, and Nigerians have not been able to meet up with the demand. So now the scientists should be able to work also more researchly. The country that have been using the GMO that has been effective there. So what is the health? What's the result? The reaction of the product
Okay, so
in the
this
system.
modern use of this modern technology they use for GMO, according to the scientists, it has been going on for about 25 years now.
Okay.
And the United States is one of the leading countries when it comes to using GMO. And so far, they've been conducting experiments and everything on it. There have not been any particular danger that has been associated to humans consuming GMO and some other consequences that might arise from it. That's what they're telling us. But of course, a lot of people are still of the opinion that it needs more and more research. So now while we are looking at alternative, okay, yes, please go on.
Can I? Okay, I wanted to take it from the angle you mentioned from your last question. Now, this is now coming back to why I would want to put up the argument of we have to be very, very careful. You said something about fertilizers, and I'm happy you mentioned fertilizers, because I was going to say this earlier like that. And so I said something like that. As a country, it's like we're being distracted with just about the GMO, that there are so many other challenges, that we're actually being faced with. And I said, and I'm happy you mentioned fertilizer, because at some point we said some farmers resisted the use of what? Fertilizers. And then for some reason there was an advocacy for we have to use, it's good for us. So now you can see it's now something that whether I like it or not, if any government intervention was happening, please they'll be like, we're going to give you fertilizers. Like one of the primary things that the government actually intervenes with. But this is the thing. If you take a test across almost all the soils that fertilizers are being used, and you try to measure how healthy that soil is, you understand? You'll find out that, and probably that's where the problem is coming from, because almost all our soils are getting toxier by the day. Hardly would you find some soils with worms, with a healthy ecosystem within the soil. You understand? Because now, and by fact, before some of these things degrade, because if you put a chemical into your soil, it takes at least sometimes 25 years before it degrades back to its natural form. And you keep doing this year in, year out. Keep putting the chemicals. And there's the danger. Because you did it once, you got a good yield. You did it twice, you got the good yield. It means that going forward, without that chemical use, you can't get good harvests. And now, you are almost dependent on the use of fertilizers on your soil. Whereas there's an alternative. You understand? Or what have been the alternative? And that's what we call it organic practices, like organic system. Whereas you could have actually increased, the health of your soil by adding some sort of composting. Build the ecosystem of your soil. Build your ecosystem in such a manner that it naturally creates itself. It naturally recreates its energies, right? And then the same thing you'll be harvesting it here, because rather than having a quick fix, because that's what it does, it's a quick fix. You put it now, you put the chemicals in, it goes in, you take it out. Rather than having it as a quick fix, you do it, you build it gradually, slowly, but what would have happened, whereas in the next 5 years, you would have had a very healthy soil that will probably take you for the next 25 years. As against, you do something quick, right? You get results quickly, but it doesn't take you for long, and then you keep being dependent on it for the next 25 years.
So, like humans, it's as if the soils themselves seem to be addicted to fertilizers.
Everything is like, that's what I say, it's like saying, as you are like this now, if you take Panadol today for your headache, and you take Panadol tomorrow, if you took one tablet today, if you keep taking Panadol, right, it will get to a point where two tablets will not be enough for you. Then you start using 3. You understand? Then you start using 4. And what does that do? That leads to what? What's it called? You begin to get resistant, and then by increasing the volumes, then you now become what? A drug. You now be abusing what? The drug. And that's where drug abuse comes in place.
So I would say, could we say that the problem is humans are impatient and greedy. That is what is affecting our farmland.
Yes, yes.
Rather than we looking for fertilizers or crops that would give us abundant yield. Would you say that that is a problem that we are facing right now all over the world? Because it's not Nigeria alone
Yes,
that
yes,
is
yes.
having this practice.
Yes, so that's the thing. Because we want quick fixes, and I'm busy my arguments to let you understand like that. We are not against abundance or modifications or all of this, but are we careful enough not to disrupt, not to disrupt the ecosystem while we are all doing all of this? That's the situation. Like, right, we have to be very careful not to disrupt the ecosystem, because by so doing, we would end up having more issues. And that's why we are here right now. Like, we are here right now because now what could have been abundant before, we've added so many things to it that, but somehow it's now looking like, oh, GMO is the problem. Oh, this is the problem. Oh, that is the problem. Without identifying like that, sometimes it's actually a combination of all the things that we have been doing, because we're trying to get it fixed, get it done, get it fast, get it fixed, get it done, get it fast, that is creating all of these things. And that's why you try to advocate for organic practices. Like, when you're saying organic practices, it's like saying that you're being careful, a bit slower, but surely you get there. And we are trying to see that in everything we do, we are looking at it through the sense of the ecosystem. And by nature, the way nature works is this: it's like when you have a product or you have a produce that has been produced in this manner, it naturally heals. It naturally gives you some sort of, you would feel the connection. Do you understand? To nature, you feel the connection to nature. You feel the impact, as against the quick fixes. Right? And that's why for those who have sometimes terminal issues, sometimes some sort of ailments and things like that, when they recommend to them, like, okay, try and get some sort of organic food, that is, get crops, get food, get all of these things that has some sort of natural system, so to speak. But the problem is, this is like that because of the over dependence on the quick fixes. You begin to have very, very few, of what is actually natural to you left. You can't have, take for example, now, when last did you taste bitter oranges? When last, how many varieties of watermelons have you seen? Before, I mean, we used to have some sort of green balls, some sort of stripes, but how many do we still have till today? If your carrot is not big and sweet, you understand, then it's not carrot at all. By nature now, it's like we are all drifting towards a mono way of consuming. So if it's not cabbage that is like this, then we are not consuming it, because we have been psyched to program to see that if it's not like this, we have to. And that's why the advocacy of, you have to be very careful, because you can say, I'm happy that you mentioned the fertilizers, because now it's more like everything is about fertilizers. So if you want to have bumper harvest, they're going to give you fertilizers. If anything is fertilizers. However, breaking it down, it's far from the solution.
Because if I'm to remember, like primary school, secondary school agriculture, there's also this practice of you leaving the land to fallow for a long time, and then you burn it, you let the land absorb the ashes before you go there to plant. Do we even still have those practices in place? Do we still have them in place?
Yes, we do.
We still do. But we have where is we in this part of the Nigeria and we in the West, we are not managing the blessing of the soil that we have. We allow other business to take over the land, and why we forget about that, when we have money, if you don't have food in your stomach, it's nothing. So everything has to be planned together. I know the last time I visited Lekki Expressway, I went to a poultry, and the owner of the poultry was saying that the people have come to built close to his farm, and they are complaining. He's afraid that Lagos State government can decide that the farm should evacuate, and if the farm evacuate, what are they going to eat? So as we are growing, we are talking about going to where is a farm area. The real estate people are also moving towards it, like too. So we all need to plan ourselves. How are we going to eat? Are we going to, do you want to depend on what is going to be coming from a foreign country? Do we want to depend alone what is going to be coming from the north? Can't we produce what we can eat? And just what I have been doing, and I appreciate your organization, Dallas TV, that give us the platform to come and talk. The last time you know, I came here to talk about organic farming, talk about how you can do something within your balcony, within around you, just to reduce the pressure of going to the market. I see a lot of response from that. I think after that, I've been invited to many churches to train, and mosques to train them how they can do a little backyard farming to help what they are going to be, eating, reducing the pressure of spending much in the market. I think the Catholic Church in Falomo, Catholic Church, Divine Mercy, and the one in Ologolo, they've invited me to train their women. And ever since then, I've seen them planting their own vegetable they are going to be eating, consuming on their own. So if the habit of using living when you cultivate in this part of the land, you leave it for a while to value and to regain the strength and the nutrient back. Well, some people are still they are doing that. Why some impatient will not allow them to do that? But yes, well, some do, why some don't do. But what I will advocate is, just like he said, and in helping somebody like me being seated here today, I don't know the last time that I went to the market to buy vegetable that I'm consuming for with my family. So we try a little of the backyard farming. Even without, with the little space you are, whether you stay in a 20-story building in Ikoyi or Victoria Highland, is something that is achievable that you can do. Is one of the things that we should use this platform to promote. And please, I don't know if we are going to be having time, I will take you around the people that stay, just to encourage others in reducing all this pressure. And also, if we can start doing this, we are going to ignore the alternative of a GMO, alternative of fertilizer, and the pressure will also reduce. And I know the number of people going to the hospital
But also reduce.
It will also
Okay,
reduce.
all right. Talking about that, because sadly we are fast running out of time.
Yeah.
So, what do you think the role of government the role governments need to play in these situations? Because it's as if while we are trying to ensure food security, some of the policies is also against food security in a way, like you mentioned about the impact of fertilizers on the soil and all that. So, where do you think government can come in to ensure that, in the true sense of it, we will keep having food security after we've dealt with the issue of farmer elder clashes that we see going on and bandits disturbing farmers in the farmland? But what other policies do you think government need to put in place to really, in the truest sense, protect farmers and the food we'll be consuming?
Well, so fortunately for us, Nigeria is a very blessed country. We are blessed with talent, we are blessed with knowledge, we are blessed with everything we can think of. However, it's just that we don't have enough wheels. I wouldn't even say governmental wheels now. And many of us don't have enough wheels to actually do the right, to actually do what's patriotic enough, to create that exact need. So going back to what the government can do, of course, what the government can do is a lot, is a lot. But I'll start with because we're talking about GMOs, right? And so I'll start with putting up um, putting up structures, that would help proper segregation. I know we mentioned NAFDAC. However, I'm sorry, but that's a knee-jerk approach, because we've got a situation like, okay, GMO is safe. Oh, GMO is not safe. Okay, you should label your GMO. So what? So the issue is this. So I got a flour. So NAFDAC gave it a certification that it's free of GMOs. How did NAFDAC know that the source of what was used to create that flour didn't come from a farm that was GMO, right? Who went to the farm to check? Who saw the seeds that were used? So I've not even gone to the lab test yet. I've not even gone into all of the sophisticated angles of all of these things, right? And that's why, I head the Certification and Standard Committee of Association of Organic Practitioners of Nigeria, NOAN, and as an NGO, we've been doing this for the past for more than 20 years now, right? We've been advocating, doing all of these things. So we've got to the point where we also offer certifications for consumers, for those who actually, so from the primary level now. And this is what's one of the things that is missing, even as a country in Nigeria. I'm not saying it's not probably there in paper. I'm not saying it's not probably there in paper. It's just that as it is right now, we don't have a proper segregational system. And because we don't have a proper segregational system, you cannot say something is free from something if you haven't even gone through the system to check where it's actually coming from, right? And that's what we do in our association. We try to validate. We've created a system of checking the backgrounds, of checking the produce, and not just even about the GMOs, right? Because GMO, like I said, GMO is just one out of the many other things that could pose challenges, to our ecosystems, our health implications, and all of those things. So we have a system of auditing of farm produce from their sources and all of that. So if you want to get any of our produce, we also have one of our markets in Ikoyi.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Thank you so much for that.
I think regarding the NAFDAC coming out, well, I believe because NAFDAC is authority and they have the regulation that
Yes.
organization that that has to do with the food and drug. And come for the director of the NAFDAC coming out, I think the people will want to believe that for NAFDAC to come out to give this statement, I think NAFDAC, I don't know how many the medical the farmer that the NAFDAC work with in achieving what they are coming out to say, and I don't know how many medical doctors they work with in achieving what they are coming out to talk about. So what we need to do is, I will advise Nigerian, let us start see how we can do our backyard a little farming both in the front and the back, so we can produce a little for ourselves and we produce what we eat and what we consume, and we are going to be eating healthy food
I'm so
rather
sorry to
than
question the flow of your thought, but
just
we've run
rely
out of
on
time.
going
Thank you so
using
much
the
for your
GMO.
input. I truly
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here with us. And that's the Mitokwe Odetola farmer. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We truly appreciate your presence. And many thanks, Lawal Mitokwe, the chairman of Standards and Certificate Committee, Association of Organic Agriculture Practitioners of Nigeria. Many thanks for being here with us today.
thank you very much.
And this is where we'll be drawing the curtains close on today's episode of Firecrackers. And please use this as an opportunity to start your own backyard or frontier farming. At least then you are sure of what you're consuming. Once again, thank you so much for being with us. See you